Exclusive contract novel from Feilu Novel Network. Pirates. A magic knife with 1,000 blades. Li Si, who witnessed the Mountain Thief King humiliating the Fourth Emperor Shanks, awakened the Swordsman System. Swordsman System. By killing or defeating original characters, you will receive various powerful swordsmen and swordsman cards. Assassin Wu Liuqi, Sasaki Kojiro. Miyamoto Musashi, Genki Kenba, Yamamoto Motoyuki Shigetaka, Kirabi, Hawkeye Mihok, ChungangAt. At this point, Li Si embarked on a journey of wandering around and constantly challenging the strong. This book is absolutely refreshing and worth reading. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Swordsman System, Activate. January 5th. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 9:98 in the early morning, strands of golden morning light rise from the sky, and with a gentle breeze, the sea appears bright and colorful. On the shore of the small boat, a young man of 18 or 19 years old was standing tall, waving his wooden sword towards the vast sea, and emitting a dull voice between his lips and teeth. The young man has clear and handsome facial features, a tall and strong figure, and his long black hair scattered randomly on his chest and back. He has the wheat skin of a seaside resident, but not rough. He was shirtless, sweating profusely. 9:99 The sound came out, the wooden sword fell, and the sea rose with waves, like a gentle breeze blowing, or like a swimming fish swaying by. 1,000, the young man said these last numbers, straightened up and drew his sword, spitting out a scorching wave of air, and his swollen muscles gathered strength. Get it done. He clapped his hands, lowered the wooden sword, turned around, and set aside the white shirt hanging on the oar. Sweating on my body, I can't wear my clothes yet. I guess it's been recently. Li Si muttered to himself, sitting at the bow of the boat, paddling back to the shore. He is not a person from this world, he is a traveler. Breaking fingers to count days, now that he has been in Windmill Village for almost 2.5 years, he has become familiar with his neighbors. Due to his age, Luffy has to shout, "Brother," when he sees him. However, Lise is not lucky. 2.5 years have passed, and the golden finger that matched the traveler has not yet appeared on him. But this only made him slightly regretful. Li Si had already made up his mind that even without a golden finger, he would work hard to exercise and become stronger. After all, this world is so big, isn't it a waste of time traveling without wandering around and experiencing the charm? This is precisely why he has been continuously honing his swordsmanship for 2.5 years. Thinking back, Li Si's hand movements didn't stop. The ship has arrived at the shore. He put on his clothes and jumped down. It took about 10 minutes to return to the shore, with the sea breeze blowing and the morning sun shining. The sweat on my body had dried up. "Oh, Lise, your training time today is shorter than usual." Slap saw Lise, who had returned from training, raised his hand and joked. Li Si used to rise in the morning and return at sunset, and this was not the case for 2.5 years. But today, he returned from the sea shortly after the sun had risen. "Yeah, something interesting may happen today," Li Si smiled slightly. Based on his speculation about the memory of the original work, it is highly likely that this period was when Shanks was beaten by bandits. For this reason, he deliberately changed his biological clock and adjusted his exercise time from early morning to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, in order to end his exercise early and not miss the scene where the Fourth Emperor Shanks was humiliated by the Mountain Thief King. This is a great play. Li Siju needs to take a look. Interesting thing. The village chief repeated in his mouth, scratching the back of his head in confusion. Between the words, Lise had already gone far. Farewell to the village chief Slap, he took a quick step forward and soon arrived at the entrance of the banquet bar operated by Magino. "Ha ha ha, is this a pirate? What kind of pirate is this? It's clearly a soft egg. The arrogant laughter penetrated into Lisa's ears through the door, which shook his expression. The waiting scene has truly arrived. Lisa's eyes flickered. The door was pushed open by him. Those who are sensible should take your people out quickly. If you provoke me, be careful not to splatter blood on the spot. The mountain bandit Sig, who had a long beard, picked up the bottle in Shanks' hand and sneered with a fierce expression on his face. Pop. The bottle shattered on top of Shanks's head, and the drink flowed down. Sig held the broken bottle mouth in his hand, his eyes full of teasing. Li Si paused in his footsteps, his expression slightly stunned. He was not distracted by Shanks being hit on the head by a bottle. Just in the blink of an eye. A series of cold mechanical prompts echoed through his mind. The host meets the triggering conditions and the swordsman system is being activated. 3, 2, 1. This system aims to make the host the strongest swordsman and provide protection for the host. Whenever the host kills or defeats the original characters, they will receive a swordsman or swordsman card. After using the card, you will immediately acquire the character's abilities, and there is a certain chance of obtaining a card character's skill afterwards. To ensure the survival rate of the host, the beginner gift package is being distributed. The host gains Assassin's 567 card, Magic Blade 1000 Blade Edition 5/5, and Genki Sword 8 card, Sealed Edition 1/1. Li Si's ears were constantly ringing with system prompts. He let out a long breath of turbid air, and a gleam flashed through his eyes. Kill or defeat the original characters. His gaze turned to Sig. You know, I've killed a total of 56 people like you. Sig slashed out with a knife, and the bar immediately broke. Shanks fell to the ground, looking very embarrassed. And Shanks still wore a plain smile on his face, calmly staring at Sig, as if it wasn't him sitting on the ground. His crew members had the same demeanor as him, both smiling with food and drink, completely indifferent. This reaction, in the eyes of the mountain bandits, is a symbol of cowardice. Luffy in the corner of the bar stared at this scene with wide eyes, filled with a hint of resentment in his daze. What kind of person are you? Li Si, who had already been targeted by a mountain bandit as he pushed the door in, had a very unpleasant expression on his face. Sig just glanced at Li Si out of the corner of his eye, with a hint of disdain in his eyes. How could a young man under the age of 20, holding a wooden sword, pose a threat to his group of mountain bandits who are numerous and carry real weapons and knives? Li Si did not answer. But in my heart, I read. System, using Assassin's 567 card. Are you sure you want to use it? Yes. Assassin's 567 card, Magic Blade 1000 Blade Edition, has been used, remaining 4 times. Words fall. Li Si lightly grasped his palm, and a light purple light condensed. That is the magic knife. The radiance of 1,000 blades. Assassin's 567 card, used successfully at this moment. Scarlet, like a handful of blood, bloomed and spread in Lisa's pupils. The mind technique exclusively belonging to the assassin quietly rotates new book seeking flower evaluation ticket. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2. Magic Knife 1000 Blades, only attack but not defend February 5th. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Shanks supported the brim of his hat and lifted his head. He stared at Li Si as he pushed the door in, ignoring the cold drink sliding down the straw hat. Purple light disappears. In Lisa's empty palm, there was an extra knife. This blade is cold and sinister, emitting a cold sharp light throughout the body, while the blade is riddled with cracks, as if it would shatter with a gentle touch. This is not in line with common sense. How can a knife that is about to shatter deal with the enemy? 1,000 fragments. Shanks' eyes flashed with brilliance. He was proficient in seeing, hearing, and exuding a domineering aura, and could easily discern the composition of the knife in Li Si's hand at a glance. A whole 1,000 fragments, not many, not many. Haha, is this guy really a fool? How dare you fight your grandfathers with a knife that's about to break? Little one, do you dare to kill? Don't be scared to wet your pants when you see blood. The bandits were stunned by the sudden appearance of the purple light, but when they saw the shape of the weapon in Li Si's hand, they all looked at each other and burst into laughter. Devil fruit abilities. Sig's eyes flashed with surprise, and his knowledge was slightly broader than that of the foolish mountain bandits. The magic knife that appeared out of thin air in Li Si's hand, in his heart, was believed to be the ability of the devil's fruit. But those with demon fruit abilities have more oil and water on their bodies. Kill him. Sig's eyes flickered with greed, licking his lips and drinking softly. Fool. Li Si's eyes sparkled with cold light. Language falls, suddenly. Chang. The magic knife trembled and resounded, as if it had come to life at this moment. A deep blue light suddenly appeared, surging through every crack, as if a mysterious stream was flowing. The magic knife has 1,000 blades, and the blade has 1,000 pieces. Each piece is slightly shaking. It feels the warmth of its owner and responds here. For a moment, coldness, solemnity, wildness, and so on all condensed into a sharp killing intent, piercing into everyone's chest fiercely. At the moment when the Wu Liuqi card was used, Li Si was the shadow assassin of Xuanwu Kingdom, the strongest assassin on the world assassin list that had almost completely abandoned emotions. If it weren't for the last remaining emotion in his heart, this shadow assassin of Xuanwu Kingdom could be unparalleled in the world. Chang. The resounding sound shook the tavern. Lise, step out in 1 step. The magic sword is also unsheathed. Shit. This is an extremely simple assassination technique. Step out, flash your body, start and fall the knife. Man, die. The assassin's decisive killing was fully demonstrated in Li Si. There is no excess at all, every cut is just right, and there won't be a drop of blood wasted. Accuracy is the difference between slaughter and surgery. At this moment, Li Si was incredibly precise. He tossed and turned. Thieves, die in an instant. Blood and flesh are flying horizontally, and bones are falling one by one. How many people need to be killed to achieve this killing technique? Shanks squinted. There are thousands of souls who have died under this kid's knife, right? Rachel Liu frowned and stopped eating meat. He felt an extremely strong killing aura from Lise. This breath is sharp and cold, and just perception can make people suppress it. If it weren't for the accumulation of thousands of heads, there would never have been such a breath. Even Captain Ben Beckman's eyes flashed with surprise. Killed 1,000 people before the age of 20. Did you start killing people from the moment you were born? The members of the red-headed pirates were surprised by this, but at this moment, the bandit Siggy only had chills. Chang. Sig raised his sword to block horizontally, his face filled with fear and anger. In just a few seconds, all the bandits under his command died. Bastard, who the hell are you? Sig panicked, and for a brief moment, there was a stalemate between the knife and the crossbar. He was clear and certain that the blade in Lisa's hand was truly shattered. How could a broken knife cut through a human body like this, killing people like cutting grass? Magic knife 1,000 blades. Only attack but not defend. Li Si's crimson eyes met Sig, murmuring in his mouth. Sig's eyes suddenly widened. He lowered his head in shock and stiffness. There is an extra scratch on the chest. This knife mark is crisp and sharp. Skin, bones, and internal organs, everything is divided into two, with smooth incisions, as if they were born like this. Beckman, I suddenly wanted to pull him into our pirate group, don't you think? Shanks stood up, his gaze never shifting from Lisa's body for a moment, his eyes flickering with light, and then he turned his head to look at Beckman solemnly. You are the captain, so make your decision. Beckman nodded softly in his mind. At this moment, Sig was speechless and stared blankly at Lise. In Lisa's hand, there was only a black handle. The thousands of fragments emitting dim blue light floated and arranged in mid-air, displaying both beauty and brilliance, truly resembling a brilliant galaxy. In a brief moment, 1,000 fragments of the magic knife exploded and penetrated Sig's chest. Sig, the vitality has been cut off. It's over. Lise whispered in his heart. He turned the handle of the knife, and 1,000 fragments were pulled forward like a rainbow chasing the sun, flying backwards. Chung. Magic knife 1,000 blades, fragments recombine, return to original state. Puff. Blood finally spurted out at this moment. Sig's body, surprisingly divided into two with her chest as the boundary. His upper body slid down from the fracture and rolled to the ground, leaving a puddle of blood. Ah! This bloody scene made Magino scream, and she quickly covered Luffy's eyes. Lise didn't care about these things. He closed his eyes, the crimson in his eyes fading away, and the 1,000 blades of the magic knife in his hand also turned into purple light and disappeared. Ding! The host successfully uses the Assassin's 567 card, Magic Knife 1000 Blade Edition, and gains the 567 skill. Use Chi to control objects. Ding! The host kills the mountain bandit Sig and obtains a Kirabi card, Non-Tailed Beast version January 1st. Lise opened his eyes again, and his pupils had completely returned to their original black color. He was somewhat surprised. I just killed an insignificant mountain bandit named Sig, but obtained the skill of using Chi to control things and a powerful card like Kirabi. Is it because he bullied the Fourth Emperor Shanks that the reward given by the system is high? I didn't expect this system to be quite amusing. Lise shook his head and chuckled. Are you lazy? I heard Luffy mention you. Suddenly, a rough hand landed on Lisa's shoulder. Lee is young and skilled in killing people. Upon hearing this, Lise turned his head and saw Shanks grinning with a thumbs up. Are you interested in joining my pirate group? You also use swords, and I happen to know a very powerful swordsman who can be introduced to you. Shanks was still laughing, his whole body soaked with alcohol. At this moment, not only did he not show the dignity of being born as the Fourth Emperor, but he was also very comical. But that's why Shanks is Shanks. No, Lise shook his head and decisively refused. Shanks' pirate group is indeed very free, and can be called the most free pirate group in the world. But this is not the life that Lise wants. That's a pity. Shanks's smile remained unchanged, without any surprise or disappointment. He patted Lise on the shoulder and said, so. Have a drink together. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3, Shall We Go Out and Fight? March 5th, Seeking Fresh Flowers. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The noisy laughter and crisp collision. Today, joy belongs to bars. The men laughed heartily, tearing at the grilled meat with bold movements, ignoring the dripping oil at the corners of their mouths. In front of the bar, there were nearly 10 empty wine barrels piled up, with two figures clinking glasses. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect you to have a great tolerance for alcohol. Shanks hugged Lise's shoulder, blushing slightly tipsy, and let out a hiccup, already drunk. I was also surprised. Lise took a sip of dry ale, his face not flushed and his heart not beating. He was really surprised. This was his first time drinking since traveling, and his body's alcohol tolerance was surprisingly terrifying. This is the last bucket of wine. If you finish drinking it, there won't be any more. Magino brought in a bucket of wine and glanced at the two helplessly. It's okay, let Luffy go and get it. Shanks patted the table and grinned at Luffy. Shanks, you idiot. Luffy pouted angrily, because he had just eaten the devil's fruit and became a rubber man. This action made his cheeks look unusually large, his face round like a balloon, and his appearance was very comical. The little ghost is just a little ghost. It's so useless that I can't even hold a few barrels of wine. Shanks laughed even louder, and the table hammered with a thud, who said I can't pick it up. Luffy glared at Shanks and angrily jumped off the chair, running away. There is no more alcohol in the Magino bar, all of which was borrowed by Luffy from the village chief. It's really a little ghost. Shanks looked at Luffy's back with a pure smile on his face. Lee Si was also watching Lu Fei leave, with a faint smile in his eyes. However, there was a hint of malice in Lisa's smile. He wants to know if the world will twist the world line back to its original shape and let Luffy fall into the sea in another way after the bandit Sig is killed. For example, on the way to get wine, slip your foot and fall into the sea. But soon, Lise was disappointed, and Luffy came back unharmed, holding 5 barrels of wine. This is Grandpa Village Chief's last drink, don't let me go get it again. Lu Fei's cheeks bulged, and his little face was still very angry. All right, little devil. Shanks rubbed his head. Here comes the wine. Banquet, continue. Lee Si did not continue talking to Shanks, but shook his glass, recalling the feeling he had when using the Assassin's 567 card just now. That is a kind of overlooking and controlling life. In his eyes, the mountain bandit exposed any weakness without a doubt, as if seeing a dead line. Lee Si only needs to carry his sword and stab it, and one life will wither. However, Lee Si knew that this was not a direct death demon eye, but simply because of Wu Liuqi's assassin intuition. Intuition told him that if he stabs here, the bandits will die. Lee Si took action and the bandit died. It's very simple, very crisp. More than 10 lives of mountain bandits withered in his hands, but all of this, in Lisa's consciousness, was ordinary, as simple as serving tea and drinking water. For 2.5 years, Lise did more than just practicing swordsmanship every day. He killed many pirates near Windmill Village. In addition, the cards of Wu Liuqi gave him a murderous aura that surprised Shanks and others. His mood fluctuated, and Lee Si took a sip of ale. The stimulation of alcohol intertwined with the sweetness of wheat, which did not intoxicate his brain, but instead cleared it up. There are 2 things that can be confirmed now. When the system card is activated, the corresponding character's characteristics will appear on him, such as Wu Liuqi's assassin's intuition. Another thing is that the character's weapons will automatically appear and disappear at the end of use. Lise lowered his head and rubbed his temples. He still has many doubts about the cards. For example, if the number of uses is limited, how long will each use last? For example, how strong is the specific strength of each card? He has asked the system these questions in his mind. But the system did not provide any answer. There's still a lot to learn. Lise shook his glass and looked at the pale yellow wine, his eyes a bit hazy. Brother Lee Si, what are you thinking? Shanks leaned in with familiarity. By the way, I heard Luffy say your hometown is not Windmill Village, right? Well, my hometown is in a very distant place. Lee Si put down his glass and whispered, blocking the topic that Shanks might ask next. Let's go. Then, he stood up, waved his hand with his back to Shanks, and slowly walked out of the tavern door. Lee stayed at the bar to drink with Shanks, just to see if the world line would change and let Luffy fall into the sea in another reasonable way. It doesn't seem like so far, so there's no reason to stay. He still has to go exercise. But at this moment, the childlike voice echoed behind him. Brother Lee Si, I want to compete with you. Lee stopped and turned his head to see that it was Luffy. Luffy's eyes widened and he shouted stubbornly, with an anxious expression as if eager to prove something. Most likely, it was another member of the red-headed pirates who teased him. Sparring. Lee Si raised his eyebrows lightly, and a flash of light flashed in his eyes. Luffy, don't cause trouble for Mr. Lise. Magino ran out and stopped Luffy. The members of the red-headed pirates also chuckled and shook their heads. Everyone believed that Lise would refuse. A man carrying thousands of lives has no reason to waste time on children. However, Lise's face showed a faint smile as he spoke, saying something unexpected to everyone, so, let's go out and fight. The rewards for Bandit Siggy are so abundant. What would happen to the protagonist of this plane, Luffy? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. The Future of Bullshit. April 5th, Seeking Flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sha sha. The sea breeze blows, and sand and dust fly in the air. The two figures standing in the center of the street are obscured and somewhat hazy. But still vaguely visible, Lise and Luffy stood opposite each other. Lise's face was calm, and his hands naturally hung on both sides of his thighs. Luffy blushed and looked poised for action. If it were another decade, this might be a scene of tit for tat. But at this moment, there is no needle pointing at the wheat on, only a hilarious one. The gap between the two is too big, and Luffy has just reached Lise's thigh. What kind of duel is this? It can only be considered as adults bullying children. I really want to fight. Raj Lu took a bite of the chicken leg and looked at Lise with a strange expression. Murder maniac, can you actually bully children? I didn't expect Lise to accept it. Jesus scratched the back of his head and looked at Luffy with a guilty look in his eyes. It was a joke he made with Luffy, roughly praising Qualis and damaging Luffy. He was not surprised to challenge Lise with Luffy's personality. After all, Luffy often duels with them on weekdays to prove his courage. Just. Why did Lise accept it? Shanks helplessly covered his face and tugged at the corners of his mouth. Fight it, fight it. I believe the swordsman has a sense of propriety. Brother Lise, let's start. Luffy shook his arm and shouted loudly. Okay, Lise nodded and said to himself, Luffy's personality has been almost fixed since childhood. Exactly, you can try using chi to control things. Look at the move. Luffy saw Lise nod and rushed forward with a reckless shout, his arms spinning like a windmill, very powerful. Lise glanced at him, squatted down calmly, and casually grabbed a stone. It's about the same size. Lise weighed the stone, which was about the size of a go piece. Afterwards, bend your fingers and flick lightly. Use chi to control objects and launch boldly. Bow. Luffy's forward-charging posture stopped. On his head, there was a bulge the size of Mantu. Ah! Luffy let out a loud scream as if he had slowed down for a while, and collapsed straight down, pouncing on the street on the spot. Luffy, Luffy. Wow, Luffy has been knocked unconscious. The members of the red-headed pirates quickly gathered around, and from time to time, they could still hear Shanks's exaggerated and suppressed laughter. This art style. Lise smacked his lips and quietly retreated to the side. Bullying children now hurts my conscience a bit. Indeed, one still needs to exercise. Lise shook his head introspectively. Ding. The host defeats Luffy, without going out to sea, and obtains a Kirabi card, one out of one of the tailed beast version. What? Lisa's footsteps paused. Bullying children, how can the reward be so high? Hitting the bandit Sig and rewarding Kirabi with the non-tailed version already surprised him, but now defeating Luffy, he actually got the tailed version. And the parentheses also indicate that it has not been shipped out. Can it be said that Luffy can still brush the reward from him again after going out to sea? The feeling of bullying children is really good. Lise let out a heavy breath, and a faint emotion called. Joy appeared in his eyes. This scene happened to be captured by Rachel Liu, who was surrounded by Luffy. Is it possible that this guy has a habit of bullying children? Lu widened his eyes and looked at Lise with an increasingly strange expression. How about telling Luffy to stay away from Lise in the future? Lu couldn't help but ponder in his heart. In thought, Lise had already left. The red-headed pirates didn't stop Lise from causing him trouble. He is not heavy in his hands, and with the physique of a rubber man like Luffy, he will be bouncing around in about 10 minutes. At best, this matter can be considered a joke. Lise walked away and went out to sea again to exercise, but this time he not only swung his wooden sword, but also gained proficiency in using chi to control objects. As the sun set and the stars rose, Lise meticulously completed a 5-hour exercise. He returned to his residence, washed his body, and then lay down to sleep. The next morning, the noisy cries of the neighbors woke up Lise. He stood up straight, rubbed his sleepy eyes, and listened carefully. Not good, Luffy drowned. Suddenly, with a sudden awakening, Liston regained consciousness. The timeline has been forcibly reversed, even without the bandit Siggy, Luffy still drowned at the time when he should have drowned. Picking up his clothes, Lise quickly went out. The scene where the King of the Near Sea bites off the arm of the Fourth Emperor is even more explosive than when the Mountain Thief King bullies the Fourth Emperor. Don't miss it. Lise quickened his pace and rushed towards the port. By the time he arrived, the red-haired Shanks had almost arrived at Luffy's side in the middle of the sea. Bang! Suddenly, the sea churned and a terrifying monster broke through the sea. The sound of the water rolling down was as loud as thunder, indicating how massive this monster was. This giant beast is rushing towards Luffy at lightning speed, its huge mouth wide open, and it's about to swallow Luffy. Yes, he is the king of the nearshore. The village chief Slap's beard trembled and he couldn't help but scream in surprise. The villagers of the surrounding windmill village were also shocked, their bodies trembling. The king of the near sea has an unprecedented deterrent effect on Windmill Village, and in their hearts, the king of the near sea is like a terrifying presence in the sea, like an evil god. Hundreds or even thousands of people who wanted to go out to sea were buried in the mouth of the king of the near sea. The sea churned, bringing out a rich and bright red color. Shanks saved Luffy, and blood flowed from his left arm. Your hands. Luffy's cries echoed through the sky. Lisa's eyes flickered. Even without the bandit Sig Shanks, he still lost his left arm. He didn't see the scene of using his domineering aura to intimidate the king of the nearby sea anymore, and turned back to the back of the crowd. Quickly, Shanks carried Luffy ashore, put on the straw hat representing inheritance, and made a promise to meet him again in the future. All the dust fell to the ground, and the crowd gradually dispersed. The red-headed pirates are also leaving. Shanks, are you okay? Lise witnessed all of this and comforted him with concern before Shanks left. It's just an arm, and I'm also looking forward to meeting you in the sea in the future. Shanks grinned heartily and flew away from the port with the still crying road. Lise looked at his back. The concern in my eyes dissipated. Instead, it's an indescribable smile. Is this betting your arms on the future? That's really bullshit. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. This Unchanging Sea is Boring 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Time flows like water, suddenly. The dawn is bright, with strands of golden radiance cascading down like rain curtains and like a thin mist of golden gauze, scattering on the sea, making the world and the sky bright. It's morning. A few pleasant bird calls woke Lise up. He opened his eyes and saw several seabirds standing on the eaves of the wooden boat, tilting their heads to look at Lise and occasionally making noisy noises. Go. Lise waved his hand and drove the seabird away. He sat up and rubbed his temples. Another day has passed. Lise felt the hunger in his abdomen, looked up, and looked around. At present, the sea is still azure, and it is impossible to distinguish where it is, only the East China Sea can be known. Li Si let out a groan, stretched lazily, and stood up. He didn't bring out the nautical chart. The nautical chart of Windmill Village was too rudimentary, only a few basic oceans were marked, and some details were very blurry, with and without differences. This time on the sea, Li Si not only traveled around to see this world, but also constantly challenged the strong to obtain more cards to enhance his strength. He no longer knows how long it has been since he left Windmill Village and set sail, but it is roughly estimated that more than a month has passed. It is worth mentioning that I did not encounter the King of the Near Sea when going out to sea. Li Si thought it might have been intentionally left for Luffy, so he didn't pay much attention. During his more than a month at sea, he drifted aimlessly on the ocean, following the waves. When hungry, used Chi to wield a sword and catch sea fish. As for Dan Shui, he brought 8 big bags, and now there is only 1 left. But he didn't panic either. He drank blood when he ran out of fresh water, the blood of seabirds. In short, there will always be an island to settle on, and step by step, that's it. Let's catch a fish first. Lise wouldn't let himself go hungry, so he made a decision now. The wooden sword suddenly flew out from behind and hovered in front of me. He also pointed out, lightly, the wooden sword burst through and opened up a large area of seawater. In just a few seconds, the wooden sword turned back, with a fish still wagging its tail inserted at its tip. Lise narrowed his eyes, but he was not looking at the fish, but at a further distance. A small black dot appeared on the distant sea level. That's a naval warship. In the distance, a medium-sized warship was sailing on the sea at a slow speed, but still stirred up a fierce sea breeze, blowing flags with Navy logos and hunting sounds. And on the deck of this warship, there is a man standing. He has a tiger back and a bare waist, wearing a suit and a naval justice coat. His high and bulging muscles support his suit tightly, and he wears a helmet with a double-headed dragon pattern on his head. His facial features exude a fierce aura. General Ghost Spider, a wooden boat found ahead. Watching with a telescope in hand, looking at the distant sea, the message was loudly conveyed at the first moment. Wooden boat. The Ghost Spider frowned and picked up a telescope from his subordinate beside him, taking 2 more glances. Wooden boats appear on the sea, which is not common. Moreover, the wooden boat on the distant sea surface is so small that it is only enough for 1.2 people to ride on. This kind of wooden boat can be overturned by slightly larger waves. Although the East China Sea is not as dangerous as other sea areas, those who dare to go out like this are either arrogant or confident. General Ghost Spider, the wooden boat is actively heading towards us. The lookout, holding a telescope in his hand, suddenly exclaimed in surprise. It's possible that they were the victims. The Navy frowned and speculated, whispering. Do you want to order an attack? The gunner respectfully saluted General Ghost Spider and asked. Let him get close. The Ghost Spider pondered for a moment and waved his hand. Through the telescope, he saw only 1 person on top of the wooden boat. 1 person would not pose a threat to this warship, this is the confidence of the Ghost Spider. Quickly, without evading or attacking the naval fleet, the wooden boat anchored next to the warship. Someone lightly tiptoed, jumped high, and landed on the deck. He was naked on his upper body, with black hair scattered haphazardly on his shoulders and chest. Although his face was resolute, a hint of childishness could still be seen, indicating that he was not very old. Sir, what can I do for you? Ghost Spider met the man's pitch-black eyes and chuckled lightly as he spoke. No hostility. This is what the Ghost Spider first perceives. And the man in front of him is by no means a victim. The man is full of energy, his eyes are lively, his muscles are strong, his blood is abundant, and there is no sign of difficulty at all. I traveled all over the world just to compete with the great powers. I just saw the ship of General Ghost Spider in the distance. General Ghost Spider is powerful and has long admired his reputation. It's a pity not to compete with a strong person like you. Li Si's face smiled, and a bright star-like light flickered in his dark and deep eyes. General Ghost Spider. Very strong. Defeat a strong opponent, the benefits will never be less. Oh. Have you heard of me? The Ghost Spider's face was somewhat surprised. Do you want to compete with me? At this moment, there was a complete silence on the deck of the warship. After hearing Lisa's words, the sailors widened their eyes and looked incredulously at Lise, who suddenly appeared in front of them. Duel with General Ghost Spider. In the eyes of the Navy, this is no less than risking one's life for nothing. You should know that General Ghost Spider has always been known for his cruel and ruthless personality. If a pirate falls into his hands, even if he doesn't die, he will peel off his skin. He is so ferocious that even if he harms his subordinates in order to carry out his mission, he is a completely hawkish figure in the Navy. In short, the fierce face of the Ghost Spider is definitely worthy of his personality. This sparring is likely to be fatal, and General Ghost Spider is not the kind of easy-going person. Are you a pirate? The Ghost Spider replied to Lise, asking such a question instead. No, Li Si shook his head. Interesting, I can spar with you, but I can't guarantee that you will be intact. The Ghost Spider's eyes showed a fierce light, and a cruel smile cracked on its face. Do you want to compete? Ghost Spiders lead troops to patrol the East China Sea, and many pirates dare not approach just because they are famous. What we see is only the unchanging sea, it's really boring. The Ghost Spider suddenly exhaled a scorching breath, and 8 pitch-black arms sprouted from behind, holding 8 knives. A fierce beast-like aura surged out of him. At present, the entire Navy warship is shaking anxiously under the collision of the Ghost Spider's breath. The Navy around them knew well that General Ghost Spider was about to take action, so they immediately retreated to a safe area and carefully watched the battle. Ha! The scent of Ghost Spiders stirred the air, and a storm blew on the deck. Lisa's hair was blown up. His complexion remained unchanged. System, using non-tailed version of Kirabi cards. New book kneels down for all data support, QAQ Qingming outing in happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6. 8-Blade Flow. 1/6, 4 flowers. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ha! The strong wind howled, and 2 large waves collided with the deck, causing a sudden change in the wind and clouds, with rolling waves. Interesting. The ghostly spider sensed the rising momentum ahead, and its eyes burst with brilliance. Such opponents will not disappoint him. The Kirabi card, non-tailed beast version, has been used. Li Si took a deep breath and listened to the cold reminder sound in his ear, his gaze fixed on the Ghost Spider. It's also at this moment. Boom! The deck under the feet of the Ghost Spider suddenly cracked with web-like cracks, sinking and exploding into a deep pit of 3 meters. He ran like a raging dragon, rampaging forward and forth, exuding a fierce aura. Chong. Knives and swords roared, and the Ghost Spider swung its 8 knives, stepping on the moon. In an instant, the blade light was overwhelming, like the desolate and cold moonlight shining on all directions, making everyone tremble with fear. Fierce and icy, 2 completely different auras appeared on the Ghost Spider. Well done. Li Si let out a soft drink, and suddenly there was a resounding sound in the sky. Ghost Spider News looks up. What I saw was a brilliant light and rain falling from the sky, emitting cold light. There were 7 paths in total, each of which cannot be ignored. The ghostly spider's gaze condensed, and its forward momentum slightly decreased. Its 8 arms trembled, and it wielded a knife and slashed horizontally. Shit. 1 strike, 8 strikes. The chilly blade light, like a bright crescent moon, rises from the ground and rushes towards the sky, each of which is exquisite and breathtaking. Chang, light rain collides with knife light, the clanging sound of collision is endless. 7 streams of light and rain were shot down from the sky and inserted upside down on the deck. The cold light flowing on the surface of the light and rain dissipates, revealing its true face. Hiss. At this moment, everyone watching the navy was gasping for breath. Surprisingly, there are 7 knives. The navies widened their eyes, never realizing that the light and rain falling from the sky were actually 7 thin knives with simple shapes and red handles. Is it true that he, like General Ghost Spider, is also a multi-blade person? The naval deputy was restless and had a strong look of disbelief in his eyes. 7 knives, can only be multi-blade flow. Is it possible that the man who suddenly appears in front of him claiming to challenge all the great powers, like General Ghost Spider, will use life return? The naval deputy took a deep breath and his face became serious. Those who could control the return of life were all powerful. Are you a 7-blade Lu? The Ghost Spider stopped charging, his gaze swept over 7 blades, and finally landed on Lise. He was somewhat surprised. No, I'm Ba Dao Lu. Lise shook his head gently, his voice was gentle yet sincere, without any hint of falsehood. This answer surprised the Ghost Spider even more, and he furrowed his brow lightly, unable to understand. Only 7 knives appeared, but 8 knives were said. Where is the 8th sword? Just as the Ghost Spider was hesitating, Lise moved. He raised his hand and 7 knives flew into the air, like flowing light, hovering in front of Lise. This is to use chi to control things. Suddenly, Lise played with his palm, and 7 knives swirled in the air, being controlled by Lise in an extremely strange posture. Take a handful in your mouth, bend your right arm and pinch a piece in the middle of your arm, pinch a finger between the right arm and neck, clamp one armpit on the left arm, clamp a piece in the middle of the left arm, lift your right leg between your abdomen and hold it together, clamp a pair between the right leg and the calf. This. Watching the Navy battle, everyone looked shocked and their eyes were about to stare out. Is there such swordsmanship in this world? The naval deputy's Adam's apple twitched, and his mind was shaken to the extreme. Multi-blade flow, using 3 or 4 blades is already the limit. No matter how much, we need to rely on other forces. After all, humans only have hands and feet, and there is always a limit. Stronger than a Ghost Spider, generals hold knives with their hair after mastering the return of life. Lise now, relying solely on the initial strength of his body, has mastered 7 swords, which is unparalleled. And at the moment when the Navy shook Lise's grip on the knife, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted in the field, like a suspended spring waterfall flying in this world. Lise, holding 7 swords, the terrifying aura belonging to Kirabi erupted at this moment. This is like the raging atmosphere of thunder rolling, bright electric currents flowing on Lise, like Wang Yanglihai surging. Kirabi, the pillar of the Kingdom of Thunder, completely controlling the strong pillar power of the 8 tails, shadow-level combat power. All these modifications placed before the 3 words, Kirabi, can prove Kirabi's strength. At this moment, Li Stone passes through the system card and reproduces the strength that belongs to Kirabi. Roaming and rumbling. I don't know if it was the influence of the Kirabi aura or just the perfect match from heaven. At this moment, the sky, which was originally cloudless for thousands of miles, became as dim as pouring lead, and thunder rolled and enveloped the dome. Suddenly. Boom. Thunder pierced through the sky, crashed into the sea, and hit the sides of naval ships. In an instant, the sea rolled and a wave of several meters exploded. Lise stood with 7 swords, his momentum reaching its peak. His eyes, reflecting thunder, stared scorching at the ghostly spider. The implied meaning is to make the ghost spider take the initiative to attack. All of this is a long story, but it was only a brief moment before Li Si held 7 knives in his hand. You are very strong. The ghost spider's gaze finally became solemn, and his fierce features revealed a hint of solemnity. If we talk about the original Li Si, it is still a sharp blade with hidden edges. So at this moment, he is completely unsheathed. Chang. The ghost spider swung its 8 knives and came to kill in the air. His personality won't make him wait for Lise to take the initiative. At this moment, every move is a killing move, and every move is full of strength. The ghost spider has already seen that Li Si's strength will not be easily killed by himself, so there is no need to stay behind. The sparring is to have a good time. Boom. On the deck, a chilling and piercing light burst out, and Lise and the ghost spider once again made a move, charging towards each other like 2 mountains colliding, with a grand momentum. The speed of the two was even faster than that of thunder, transforming into 2 blurry illusions. Surrounded by a burst of blade and sword shadows, their speed was too fast, and in an instant, they fought and collided with hundreds of moves. 7 swords against 8 swords, yet they faintly have the upper hand. This surprised all the navies, causing a cold sweat to flow through their hearts and minds. I originally thought that General Ghost Spider could easily solve the battle, but I didn't expect Li Si, who came by boat, to be incredibly strong. His swordsmanship was comparable to that of Ghost Spider, and he even suppressed it. This result overturned many naval speculations before the start of the exchange. 2 strong players are colliding, and in a moment, the wind direction has changed several times. The knife light is splattering everywhere, and the clang hits the sky. The new book requires various data support, such as flower evaluation tickets, which are really important. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Sword Techniques Like Thunder February 6th, Seeking Flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The ghost spider is incredibly powerful, taking the initiative to attack from the beginning, with endless killing moves. The 8 knives are swung one after another, each move is extremely tricky, and the sword light produced is extremely terrifying. The chill is piercing, and it is heart-wrenching. He leaped into the air and swung his 8 arms at the same time, smashing towards Lise. Chang. The air was suddenly cut open, and the howling wind sounded like a wild beast roaring. The lion burst out with great force, and the ghost spider was truly like a fierce tiger fighting in the air. Shit. Li Si's 7 knives emitted a blazing arc in his hand, causing the air to twist and fall as fast as thunder, shaking the ghost spider's 8 knives hard. A dramatic vibration erupted between the two, with sparks splashing. This was caused by the collision of knives, and the waves of energy surged, creating a deadly aura. If someone enters the attack and killing range of both at this moment, they will definitely be shattered by the knife light in an instant, and their bones will be completely destroyed. General Ghost Spider, suppressed. A naval youth stared blankly at the scene before him, which exceeded his imagination. In his world, the swordsmanship of his superior, Lieutenant General Ghost Spider, is absolutely top-notch throughout the entire Navy. Among the strong generals at the rank of Lieutenant General, he is one of the best. Even the skilled swordsman in Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel dare not say he can stabilize Ghost Spider. And now, the Li Si in front of him boldly suppressed the Ghost Spider with his knife technique. Did Li Si already possess the power of a general at a young age? The naval youth took a deep breath and shook his head suddenly. It was impossible. The ultimate winner must be General Ghost Spider. And it was at this moment that a faint electric current echoed from the deck. This sound, as if carrying an unstoppable sharpness, felt a pain in the eardrums as soon as it was heard, making people unable to help but cover their ears and shake their heads. Light, a bright and dazzling thunder appeared. This was not the arc that had surrounded Lizzie's body before, but more like a real thunder descending from the dome. Boom boom. Thunder roars and rolls, Li Si cuts straight with 7 knives. This knife reproduces Kirabi's powerful power at the shadow level as the pillar of the Kingdom of Thunder. This knife can only be described in one word, quick. Too fast to be captured with the naked eye. Anyone can only see a thunderbolt passing by, even a strong person who is proficient in seeing, hearing, and having a domineering aura cannot see the trajectory of this knife at this moment. Shit. With a single slash, it surges like a sea of thunder. This is the super sound thunder escaping blade. Chong. The deafening clanging sound exploded, and the ghost spider lifted its knife and blocked it horizontally, causing its body to recoil. He stepped on the deck with his feet and plowed 2 nearly 20-meter scratches before finally stopping. The arm holding the knife was trembling gently, and at this moment, the ghost spider's whole body was filled with blood and energy. His suit was torn, his right arm was exposed, and his black hair was dancing in disorder. His eyes widened, and a thunderous light reflected in his pupils, shining and dazzling. Will the ghost spider be repelled? The Navy shouted loudly. This was the first major collision between the two after their battle, and the ghost spider retreated 20 meters. There is actually a sword technique like thunder in the world. What kind of knife technique is that? General Ghost Spider is like fighting against thunder. The Navy was in a state of turmoil as they watched this scene. Everything that had just happened was too fast, and they couldn't even see clearly how Lise had taken action. I only know that at that moment he used 7 knives. 7 swords strike together, and the speed is comparable to thunder. This kind of knife technique is unheard of. Everyone swallowed a mouthful of water. The current situation can be seen by discerning people. General Ghost Spider, I'm going to lose. What kind of knife technique is this? The Ghost Spider gasped for breath as he spoke with great difficulty. As soon as he opened his mouth, he coughed up a few strands of blood, and a faint electric current could be faintly seen flowing through his body. This is the residue of the super sound thunder escaping blade. Ka. And it was precisely at the moment when the Ghost Spider spoke, the 8 knives in his hand. It's broken. All of them are broken, not a single one can be left intact. The Navy watched this scene and their hearts twitched, as if they had missed a beat. The 8-blade fracture proves that the Ghost Spider really lost. This unknown young man defeated a top admiral in the Navy, super sound thunder escaping blade. Li Si let out a mouthful of turbid air and straightforwardly said the name of the blade he had just made. You said before, are you the 8-blade flow? The Ghost Spider stood up straight, wiping away the blood from the corner of his mouth. At this moment, he looked very embarrassed, but his eyes were bright, with an inexplicable expression, staring closely at Lise. Yes, Li Si nodded lightly again. The Ghost Spider suddenly shook, he can be certain. Li Si did not lie, he is really a 8-blade Lu, that is to say, I was defeated without even forcing Li Si's 8th strike. This is a gap like a divide. Thinking of this, the Ghost Spider's eyes flashed with an uncontrollable shock and surprise. He is shaking Lisa's strength and superb swordsmanship. I am also surprised when such a strong person appeared in the East China Sea, yet unknown. The Ghost Spider was pondering, with a furrowed brow. But soon, his eyebrows relaxed and he suddenly smiled. I didn't expect that the trip to the East China Sea would bring me such a harvest. Ghost Spider shook his head and looked at Lise, saying seriously, I lost. As soon as these words were spoken, the onlookers of the Navy were in an uproar. Surprisingly, I really lost. The Navy glanced at each other and saw a strong shock in their eyes. Although they didn't want to believe it, the fact lay before them. The powerful Ghost Spider General was truly defeated by an unknown person. I have also gained a lot. Lise let out a heavy mouthful of turbid air, his eyes shining brightly. This statement is not a lie, even if the rewards of the system are not discussed, this actual confrontation with the strong will still bring him a lot of benefits. At least I have a higher level of control over my body. Kirabi's 8-blade flow is really amazing. May I ask what your name is, sir? Ghost Spider smiled and thought of making friends. It's a pity that a strong person like Lise wouldn't be brought to the Navy, but the terrifying features of Ghost Spider made people feel even more permeated with a smile. Lise. Lise reported to himself. Lise. The Ghost Spider silently recited, remembering the name in his heart. Kneeling for flowers and evaluation tickets, QAQ. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 8. Chasing. March 6th, Seeking Fresh Flowers. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Sunset, night falls on the earth, and stars dot the night sky. The cold and bright moonlight sprinkles on the vast sea, reflecting the sparkling waves and adding a touch of mystery to the world. Naval ships are anchored on the quiet sea, and the Navy flag, symbolizing peace and justice, is fluttering in the night breeze. At this time, it's dinner time. The aroma of the dishes is mixed with the wet and salty taste of the sea breeze, creating a unique flavor. Thank you for the hospitality. Lee stood up from the dining table and smiled friendly at the Ghost Spider. After several hours of self-sparring, Ghost Spider specially left Lise to have dinner on the warship. The two had a brief conversation and got along quite well. Lise, are you really not considering it anymore? The Ghost Spider wiped his mouth and saw Lise's desire to leave. He immediately raised his head and said seriously, with your strength, joining the Navy and becoming a lieutenant general is a definite thing, and with time, you may even have the opportunity to sit in the position of a general. Sorry, I don't have any thoughts on this at the moment, Lise politely shook his head. This is the second time that Ghost Spider has invited Lise to join the Navy, but Lise still refused. He himself does not like to be bound by rules and regulations, let alone the existence of Tianlong people in the world government that he does not like. Okay, I'll see you off. Ghost Spider was also decisive. After being rejected, he stood up without saying a word and wanted to see off the guest. Lise is not a pirate. Since he cannot be a colleague, it is always right to leave a good impression. This is a world where the strong are respected, and obviously, Lise deserves the title of the strong. His thunderous sword technique has been deeply experienced by the Ghost Spider. Oh, by the way, Lise seemed to suddenly remember something and turned to Ghost Spider just a few steps away. Can you give me a chart? No problem. The Ghost Spider didn't hesitate and directly ordered the Navy Department to handle it. Quickly, the naval adjutant walked out of the cabin, holding not only the nautical chart but also a telephone worm. Mr. Lee, the adjutant handed two things to Lee. What is this? Lise took it over and looked at the Ghost Spider with a puzzled expression. If you change your mind and want to become a Navy in the future, just contact me, Ghost Spider chuckled and made a phone call. He didn't want to let go of someone as strong as Lise. A nautical chart and a telephone worm are nothing, just ordinary supplies. I'll take it then. Lise turned around and waved his hand towards the Ghost Spider. Before the sound fell, people had already walked away. The Ghost Spider smiled and didn't say anything more, watching as Lise walked to the edge of the warship deck, leaped forward, and disappeared. Lise safely landed on the wooden boat he came on. He collected the charts and phone worms sent by the Ghost Spider. Charts are very practical. Telephone worms may also be useful. Perhaps in the future, when defeating pirates, you can also call Ghost Spider and ask him to come and catch people. The Navy warship quickly left with the sound of its whistle, and Lise lay alone on the wooden boat. The silent system prompt sound in his mind was recalled by him. Ding! The host defeats Navy Lieutenant General Ghost Spider and obtains the Sasaki Kojiro card, FAT/Tainite version 1-1. Only this one, nothing else. It seems that this time it's not that European, Li Si sighed as he looked at the stars in the sky. The last time he received chi to control things was already very good, and this time he didn't get Kirabi's skill, so Li Si won't be upset. This sparring has already benefited him a lot, and now even when he closes his eyes, he can recall the feeling of 8-blade flow. The value of this feeling itself has exceeded some useless skills. Where should we go next? Li Si muttered twice and opened the chart. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west, which is an unchanging rule of nature. Today, the radiance of the scorching sun has also descended on the vast blue sea. The warm sunshine cannot make people feel warmth. There is just a bone-chilling cold. Bloody, spreading on the sea surface. All that one's gaze could see were limbs, broken arms, and fragments of wooden boards. A strong smell of blood permeates the sea, and when the sea breeze blows further away, it should have caused a riot among marine creatures, and even sea animals living deep in the sea may follow the bloodstains. But at this moment, no marine organism dares to rebel. Just because a condensed killing intent is spreading across the sea. This killing intent makes even the sunlight cold. Wow! More than 10 pirate ships rushed out of the crimson sea of blood, racing wildly on the surface of the sea, their horsepower reaching its maximum, and their propellers rolling up the sea. These pirate ships are very excellent in the East China Sea, and now they are all operating at full speed, creating a terrifying sound like thousands of troops and horses galloping. But such a sound does not make the pirates on the pirate ship feel at ease. Everyone was trembling, their faces pale as paper, their expressions extremely fearful, and they would occasionally turn back to look behind them, as if there were terrifying beasts chasing after them. Damn it, who the hell is he? Crick lay on the railing at the edge of the deck, wearing a luxurious golden armor, but now the armor was no longer shiny, only dirty blood stains and disheveled dust. Suddenly, a cold killing intent locked in. Crick shuddered suddenly, and he turned his head in terror. The towering silver waves appeared from the sea level, like an invincible divine gun, heading straight towards Crick's fleet. In this huge wave, a wooden boat can be faintly seen, with a tall figure standing tall at the bow. This bastard still refuses to let us go. Crick saw the scene behind him clearly, jumping and shouting with fear and anger. Seeking flowers and evaluation tickets is really important, thank you all. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. One blade breaks the ship April 6th, seeking flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hurry up, hurry up. Left full rudder, no, right full rudder. Shoot, shoot, what are you waiting for? Do you want to die? The pirates of the Creek Pirates were all panicked, crying and cursing incessantly. Even the timid pirates couldn't stop urinating, and the Yellow River was about to breach its banks. This is not an exaggeration, the figure in the huge waves, it's a nightmare for the entire Creek Pirates. He sank 5 ships of the Creek Pirates with a devastating force and killed nearly 200 pirates with thunderous methods. As long as he waved the strange magic knife in his hand, someone would die instantly, unable to resist. Although the Creek Pirates took the initiative to provoke the man, they believed that the blood of 200 pirates could already calm the man's anger. But now it seems that this is not the case at all. That figure is still being pursued. He had no intention of letting the Creek people go. He wanted to kill the entire Creek group and completely bury them in this sea. Aren't the gunners ready yet? Crick gritted his teeth and roared, his chill rising in his heart as he charged straight towards the heavenly Lingai, his whole body trembling. As I watched, the figure in the huge waves was getting closer and closer. Crick saw his face clearly. Wearing wheat-colored skin, with sturdy yet understated muscles, firm and handsome facial features, and black hair dancing in the wind. But what scares Crick the most is his eyes, that is a pair of blood-red eyes, like a pile of corpses and blood piled up in it. Is this really an eye that humans can have? Crick's teeth trembled as fear unconsciously took root. Creek boss, the artillery is ready. The gunner's roar suddenly rang out and landed in Crick's ear, like a heavenly sound. This pulled him out of fear, and a hint of joy unconsciously appeared on Crick's face. At this moment, the expression on his face solidified. Amidst the huge waves, Lise was as fast as a phantom, shooting out loud. Dong! The small pirate ship closest to the giant wave suddenly trembled. He flashed into the air, wielding his sword and cutting in a round slash. The magic knife with 1,000 blades erupted. The blazing and dazzling blade light flashed through, pulling out a poignant arc under the sunlight, like the Milky Way facing dust. Time seems to be frozen. Crick's eyes were bloodshot, and he looked at the scene before him. Today, such scenes have appeared 5 times. This is the 6th time. He knows what will happen next. But he couldn't get angry. At this moment, what can remain in my heart? It's just that boundless fear. Dead silence. The entire crew of the Crick pirates remained silent. Everyone opened their mouths wide and roared silently. Caw. Finally, a gruesome creaking sound emanated from deep within the hull. The ship has cracks in the middle section. Clear and distinct. Just like the mountain bandit Sig, who was cut in 2. Pop, pop, pop. Not only that, there was also a muffled sound coming from the bodies of the thieves on the ship. They haven't moved since that knife was swung. It's not because of being overly frightened and foolish. But rather, at the moment when the knife light shone, all the pirates on this ship had a faint and undetectable bloodshot on their bodies. Vitality, all are cut off. No one survived. The crimson flowers of blood are in full bloom, one after another incredibly beautiful. Bang! The ship broke and sank into the sea. Death turns into blood and water. In a second, in an instant, a pirate ship, 30.6 pirates, buried forever in the sea. The sky was filled with wooden planks and debris, with limbs and blood staining the sea, which was terrifying to the extreme. Run, run. Crick finally came to his senses. He couldn't care about firing anymore and ran in from the edge of the railing with both hands and feet. His face was disheveled and ferocious, his mouth kept roaring, and saliva flowed down, appearing crazy. Roaming and rumbling. Without the command of Crick, the frightened pirates had already spontaneously launched their ships, desperately exploiting the potential of the pirate ships. The sophisticated pirate ships all let out deep sobs due to overload. Crick hugged his head and froze on the deck, his head buried between his knees, trembling uncontrollably. Bean-sized sweat dripped down his cheeks, wetting the deck. He is afraid. I don't know how long it took, but when Crick regained his senses and looked up again. Behind me. The sea is blue. There was no trace of blood in the area we saw, nor was there the death god who was desperately chasing after him. Did you escape a disaster? Crick was somewhat lost in thought. He was really stunned. There is no sense of relief in the eyes, only a bewildered moment. On the other side, Li Si swam back to the side of the small boat, and the fish jumped out of the sea and landed steadily on the wooden boat. He rubbed his temples. The brain is very painful, as if there is a needle piercing. In addition to pain, there was also a deep sense of fatigue enveloping Lise. Li Si is not unfamiliar with this feeling. He often experiences such situations when exercising to control things with chi. This is a sign of excessive use of mental energy. Practicing is still not enough. Li Si took a deep breath and shook his head, trying to dispel the strange feeling in his mind. His small wooden boat, of course, cannot match the horsepower of Crick's pirate ship. Therefore, he wrapped the small boat in chi and slid on the sea, which caught up with Crick's ship. This is much simpler than directly controlling a wooden boat to fly, but the pursuit time was too long, taking up half a day, which caused Li Si's mental energy to be excessively depleted. Looking back half a day ago. Lise was drifting on the sea, struggling to figure out where to go next when he collided with the Creek pirates. Crick also cooperated, firing at Lise with a reckless look that would kill anyone in the way. Proactively provoking himself, coupled with being able to swipe cards from Crick, Lise had no reason to let him go. This is the scene from just now. However, the wooden boat was too inconvenient to travel, which allowed Crick to escape a disaster. It can also be considered a gain. Lise's eyes gleamed with contemplation. In his hand, he still held 1,000 blades of a magic knife. This means that the duration of Assassin Wu Liuqi's card has not yet passed. But by the time it was launched, a full half-day had already passed. This gave Lise a new understanding of the duration of the card. However, it cannot be determined whether each card has such a long duration. Lise restrained his thoughts. The pain in the brain is also about to disappear. He lifted his head and looked in the direction where Crick had disappeared. Crick, how could I possibly spare you? Lise's magic knife, with 1,000 blades, emitted a blue light. His indifferent words slowly echoed over this sea area looking for flowers and evaluation tickets. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. The Sound of Cannons 5 of 6, Flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Noon is a busy and leisurely time in people's lives. After starting a fire and cooking, you can enjoy a leisurely lunch break. The same goes for Kekiaxi village. Cooking smoke rises from all over the village, and crazy little kids rush home. If they eat late, the adults at home will blame them. This world has become a peaceful picture. Xiao Nami bounced along the mountains and forests, holding a book in her hands as if it were a precious treasure. Hee. She lifted the book in her hand, facing the sunlight, and jumped around in a circle, appearing very lively and cute. You see, I'm covering for you, you did indeed steal it. Noki's high face showed a sly smile. When I finish the map, let's take Belle on an adventure together. Nami's smile grew brighter, as if she had thought of something very happy. Let's go back for dinner first, and we'll be scolded by Belmer a little later. Nokigo made a face at Nami, sticking out his tongue and running forward quickly. Whoever enters the house the latest is a big fool. Noki, you're too cunning. Wait for me. The childlike voice echoes in the lush mountains and forests, making people feel calm and composed. This is a picture that no one wants to break. But this anyone does not include pirates. Bang! The waves rolled over, and even the earth beneath Nami and Noki's high feet trembled. The two of them, who were chasing and playing, stumbled and fell to the ground in a solid state. Noki was too tall to cry out in pain, and on the day her village was attacked by pirates, she heard many loud noises like this. The noise made her liver and gallbladder crack. This is the sound of artillery. It's on fire. Nami's screams of surprise echoed behind Noki Gao. She suddenly got up and turned her head to look around. I saw a raging fire burning in the forest, which was only 500 meters away. Black smoke filled the air, and the pungent smell of gunpowder spread in all directions. Just now, a shell landed here. Boom! The cannon was fired, and the barrel trembled gently, emitting a pungent smell of gunpowder. Crick held a telescope and wore a cruel smile on his face. Suddenly, his smile stiffened. In Kekiaxi village, there is indeed smoke and gunpowder spreading everywhere. But that's all, the shell landed in a forest far away from the crowds and buildings. No casualties occurred. It's crooked. This is a very basic mistake. This is almost impossible in the past. But today, a great fear envelopes the entire Crick team. This fear made everyone restless, causing blood to flow back, resulting in such a basic mistake. This fear comes from the man holding the magic knife, Lise. You useless thing, Crick clenched the telescope tightly, his fingers turning white from excessive force. The telescope was thrown to the ground and crushed by him, and the black leather boots were lifted up, carrying the sound of breaking wind in the gunner's abdomen. Creak boss, spare your life. With a muffled sound, the gunner was kicked and rolled on the ground, his head slammed heavily on the wooden board, causing blood to flow. He struggled to endure the pain and quickly got up, kneeling in front of Crick, shouting incessantly. You can't even make it from such a close distance. Crick remained unmoved, his eyes only showing a cruel intent to swallow someone. The black leather boots landed on the back of the kneeling gunner's head. Afterwards, apply force, step on it again. Ah! The gunner's screams became increasingly mournful. But at this moment, no one in the Creek pirates dared to speak up. Everyone lowered their heads and remained silent. Gradually, the screams became low, and in the end, only faint breathing remained. He's no longer useful, throw him into the sea to feed the fish, Crick said with disgust and cruelty, wiping the blood stains from his boots and pointing to the gunner who only had one last breath left. In a silent silence, the dying gunner was lifted by two pirates with hands and feet and thrown into the sea, unable to even generate too many waves. The death of his companion made Crick's entire group even more silent. Someone is trembling gently, panicked and fearful, afraid that it will be their next turn. Crick is cruel, but not just that. Li Si's pursuit caused Crick's mood to be greatly disturbed, a great fear weighed on his heart, and he needed to vent it. Kekiaxi village happens to be located here, so, Crick ordered the gunners to fire. The gunner's mistake gave Crick an outlet for his suppressed emotions. However, one life is clearly not enough. Keep firing. Forget it. Crick's eyes, covered in red blood, flashed with a ferocious expression. Move at full speed, let this village, no, let the entire East China Sea know the strength of our Crick pirates. Yes. The pirate under the flag trembled violently. They knew what Crick was going to do, their eyes shining red. Crick needs to vent, how could the pirates who were slaughtered unilaterally not? Now, the Creek pirates, from top to bottom, have only one purpose, murder. Only by slaughtering the entire village, only by burning, killing, looting, only by destroying everything we see, to numb the fear in their hearts. The pirate ship advanced at full speed, like terrifying beasts rushing towards it. A series of rapid and anxious shouts exploded in the village of Kekiaxi. Pirates, there's a pirate coming. This voice is transmitted through the streets and alleys, which is a very important message and a significant threat to the lives of the entire villagers in Kekiaxi village. 1 to 10, 10 to 100, in just a few minutes, this news is well known among the people of Kekia West village. On the sea not far away, 12 pirate ships are heading towards here. The villagers gathered at the coastal port, gazing at the distant sea. Is it Crick's pirate group? The elderly and knowledgeable villagers recognized the fluttering pirate flag in the wind, and were immediately terrified, as if seeing a snake or scorpion. Crick. Is he the extremely terrifying pirate rumored to be? As soon as these words were spoken, all the villagers panicked. It's terrible now, how could he come here? I heard that Crick is not only powerful, but also cruel in nature, far surpassing ordinary pirates. We don't have anything worth Crick's visit to in Kekiaxi village. The villagers were disoriented, panicked, and in chaos. That's enough. Jianzhu, as the security officer of Kekiaxi village, gathered his courage at this moment and shouted loudly. He wore a cute and childlike windmill on his head, paired with a big black military hat, which made Kenzo's appearance look very comical. But in the face of pirate invasion, he showed unprecedented composure. Jianzhu knows that he is the security officer of Kekiaxi village and must not panic. You guys, go contact the Navy branch and tell them about the invasion of the Creek pirates. Kenzo pointed his fingers together and pointed out several elderly women in the crowd. The women nodded vigorously. The rest of you. Get your weapons ready. Kenzo remained calm and composed, with a glint of thoughts in his eyes. If these pirates were just asking for money, they wouldn't have fired immediately. Jianzhu didn't finish speaking, but the following words were already self-evident. We don't need to defeat the pirates, we just need to persevere until the navy comes to victory. He tried to keep his body straight and said word by word. Time flows bit by bit. Finally, Jianzhu's courage infected the villagers, and they looked at each other, both seeing determination in each other's eyes. Protect the village. A young male youth raised his right hand high, strong and powerful. Protect the village and defeat the pirates. His voice sounded like a switch, and cries echoed everywhere. The roar converged together, as powerful as a hammer and drum, spreading to extremely distant places. Villagers, unite as one. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.